The value in this is learning how to move your body through space and time. Very similar to what your kata teaches. And there must be a logical progression. Onegaishimasu. Welcome back to the Goju Karate Center. There are a series of pre-arranged sparring training exercises utilized by Goju practitioners that are kind of our bread and butter. And in some places I've come across senior instructors saying to me, don't worry about it. There's no point to 1-step, 3-step, 5-step sparring. So I'm concerned that if it is only a pragmatic outcome, then why is it that some of the older Goju dojos still do these types of training? So, having grown up in a line of Goju that is predominantly from Miyazato Sensei, whether it was as a young child training under the IOGKF, or under Sensei Teruo Chinen in Jundokan International, or later on under Jundokan, or now currently OGKK. We always find that there is some training on Sandangi, or Sanbon Kumite, or Sanbon Zuki Kumite. What is the reason for this? Okay, so I will get back to the reasoning at the end. Let's go through the basic training exercises to work on. So, starting off, very, very much a basic for children to begin and for very little children to work on. If we start Jodan, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Always put a pause at the end of the third one. Try to do 2, so you do 6. Chudan, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Gedan, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we move to the next exercise. Ageuke, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Chudan level, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Gedan level, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're ready again. So this is a basic exercise, can be done in a class format, or you can train it on your own in front of a mirror. The benefit is training with a partner. So the moment you can train with a partner and you can just put the two exercises against one another, we're then working on this. At this point, we're still stationary. We're not standing. Hi, Brian, come on in. Brian is back. Yahoo. Hey, shimasu. Standing. So, things that I would like people to consider is that there are always two options. And the first option, the more important one, it's like shaking hands. So if he's punching with this hand, I'm blocking with this hand. So as Brian punches, Jordan, 1, 2, 3. And then there's that pause. That pause ultimately is for some kind of counter. 1, 2, 3. And now we move to the next exercise. Chest level. And then low level. Okay? And then we change roles. So now I punch. Did I skip 3 out? You sure? All right. Sorry. The playback might reveal. So this is our basic exercise, and you just train it. Some simple things that you may consider that this gives you. Every single time we're punching against one another and blocking, there is a degree of conditioning. So not only can we practice conditioning, so Brian, let's do like ude tanden. Not only can we practice this or chest block, okay, or inside, or gedan barai, or the variations. So you can practice all the koikutai as you want, or ude tanden that you want. When we do blocking and punching against one another, psychologically, we feel that we're both growing stronger as we're doing it because we can both pair it up and we can build it up over time. You're still getting that contact, and that contact is slowly and systematically conditioning your arms. So my first reason why we like these activities, besides for distance and timing, is that we're actually building the conditioning in the blocking and the punching and in the arms so that we become stronger. So this is a very important reason to do these activities. I like the idea of utilizing 4 different stances. So the first activity would look something like this. 1, 2, 3, pause. 1, 2, 3, pause. Backwards. 1, 2, 3, pause. 1, 2, 3, pause. We then go on to chest level. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Stomach level. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And back. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Most people only do that. They neglect long stance, shikodachi, if you want to call it a horse riding stance, straddle stance, and then cat stance. Now for me, the awkward one is always the cat stance. So typically, I'm just going to do the Jordan of each set, but I'm going to do it in a different stance. So I may only do 3 steps because of the distance between myself and the camera. So if we had finished off number 3 here, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right, shikodachi, 45 degrees. 1. Don't punch here. Your opponent is actually going to be here. And one of the important things to consider is that when you step from here, you want to step straight and then pivot the hip out. So your shikodachi is actually going to be at quite a narrow angle as you punch, because your opponent's going to be here. 2 and 3. When you move back, 1, 2, and 3. The 4th type of stepping, and there are a couple of options on this. I'm going to show you what I am currently teaching so that you get an idea of what we're doing in our dojo. So when we get to shikodachi and we step, we're going to step like a long stance. 1, slide the back foot up, cat stance, and down. So then step down like a long stance, up and down. Let me just go back a little bit so you can see my feet a little bit better. Step down, through, up, and punch. This is really awkward stepping. It's complicated. And therein lies the challenge, to challenge your students to something that is not just the normal. And the idea that you may have in mind would be maybe Seiyunchin. Oopsie. Seiyunchin, step, and move. This idea of changing your position. So from shikodachi, if we were stepping, long stance, up, punch. Step through, punch. Step through, punch. When we go back, 1, 2, and 3. So this set of activities, we will probably just call this Sanbon Kumite. 3 times training. So 3-step sparring. And varying schools will have slightly different names. I do see great value in it. And obviously, whatever we've just done here, we can do with a partner. And so if I go Jordan, 1, 2. This distance, too far, so we want to be closer. And 2, 3. And there's a pause. 1, 2, 3. Now we change direction. 1, 2, 3. And there's a pause. 1, 2, 3. Did you see what I saw in Brian stepping? Oh boy.
Adjusted distance just slightly.
Every single time you're adjusting distance. All right, so something from an instructor's point of view. Brian, go back. Let's go to here. And you were attacking. Look at what he does with his front foot before he moves his back foot. Go, 1. Go, 1. Did you see him pull his foot back before he stepped? This is a no-no. All right? It's actually bad technique. Sorry, Brian, you're becoming the greatest sensei ever by showing your mistakes. So, from here, he should transfer straight onto this leg. So, press your weight down on this leg and just step through and deliver the punch. So, what? He's still adjusting. Okay, so there's something for you to consider as a critical part of what we're doing. And we tend to see it a lot more in long stance. It becomes more pronounced. And we're right hand against right hand. And now we move to chest. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we go stomach. 1. Sanchin. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. So in practicing, we can do Sanchin Dutch, then we can do Zenkutsu Dutch, then Shiko Dutch, and then we can do cat stance. And I'm not going to run through all of them. It's just an idea that you can carry on with. You start getting an idea that it's quite easy to do one punch. So we have the natural escalation, the triple punch system, which then encourages us to move a little bit faster. The triple punch system we can start it off in heikodachi or in parallel feet, and so it'll be 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Pause. So it's 3 by 3. So it's 9 techniques. On the blocking side, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Pause. That's 3 sets. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. And pause. Then chest. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Pause. And so we carry on. Face, chest, and stomach. What this is going to teach you is how to block a lot faster, and most importantly, how to utilize this part of every single block. If you don't make sure of this, and you're just obsessing with the end arm, the punch is going to slip through. And again, you can start off heikodachi, standing still, training with a partner, and building the speed. Hi, Brian, come, let's go. Brian, come forward a bit. Forward a bit. Forward a bit. Okay, there you understand distance now. Okay, so we start off with Jordan. 1, 2, 3. Pause. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I like to add a little pause at the end of each technique. So let's say Brian has completed 1 half. Okay, now we're going to go. So now I want 1, 2, 3 and a little pause. Go. Next one. Next one. Okay, now if we slow this down, and we're going to use Jordan Zuki again, Brian is going to punch. As he punches, my immediate concern is if I'm obsessing with this hand to block that hand. So Brian punch, I'm doing this. If he gets through, maybe I get the first one. But if I'm trying to catch him because the punches are speeding up, they're rolling up faster and faster, eventually the third one is going to catch me. So punch. So what's very important and what this teaches, especially for our rooted Goju system in traditional root, is that all of our blocks have a double or triple action. So when he punches, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This makes it that much easier, which means the second portion can actually be focused on forcing his body into a different alignment. And that, again, is going to become more and more important as we become more and more advanced. At no point should this be textbook perfect. The textbook perfect thing is he is perfectly straight and square, his punch is here, and I have lifted it and it is above my head. In essence, then, all I have affected is his arm. So your goal should be not to affect his arm and his fist. Your goal is to affect him. So when he punches, go 1, I've affected him. 2 and 3. I'm affecting him. I'm making it that much harder. I'm also pressing in. Note, my block is on the back of his arm. A lot of people obsess with it being here. All right? Something I learned a long time ago. If you block here, the person does this, and their arm immediately becomes an elbow strike. The moment I'm controlling just below the elbow, I have better control, but most importantly, I'm affecting my opponent. Chudan level 1, that is critical. And that is controlling, taking over. So as he punches, 1, there, and that. 3, and 1, 2, 3. All right? The other thing that tends to happen is that I tend to push down. As he punches, he needs more, he may want to use more energy to hit me. And as he moves, watch what happens as this hand blocks and what I can do with my hip. So punch Brian. By turning this, I rotate this. So I don't go here. I rotate on my axis through my hips. 1, 2. So as he punches, sorry, Brian. 1, 2. So I'm looking at the camera. This is very bad. But okay, again, 1. There's that rotation, taking over. And again, and taking over. Now, I'm exaggerating to show the effect, but it's subtle. And it comes naturally that the hips start to work. Okay? And we run through this exercise from head to groin. Hey, thank you, Brian. This would naturally then develop into our 1-step and 3 punches or 3 blocking technique. All right? Sometimes called Sanbonzuki Kumite. The only way I remember it is triple punch, Sanbonzuki, so triple punch training. The value in this is, again, changing how we do things. And again, it's just that routine of arms and legs bashing against one another. So we're doing a certain amount of physical conditioning. We're also doing a certain amount of stepping. So we're learning to adjust according to distance and to space. So that's going to improve our timing and our distancing in combat. So we get through Sanbon Kumite, Sanbonzuki Kumite. The third tier is the 3-level training. And this is more valuable, and a lot of people neglect the first 2 tiers and jump straight away into the third tier. And there are many, many variations. And there are sometimes school or association standards that need to be met in these activities. So typically, Sanbon Zuki Kumite and Sanbon Kumite become Sandan Gi or Sandan Uke Harai, I think is the other name that it is called. And for instance, in our OGKK school, the system requires Sanchin, Sanchin, Shikodachi. So the stepping and the techniques start to become a little bit more of Sanchin, Sanchin, Shikodachi. Sanchin, Sanchin, Shikodachi. Age uke, chudan uke, gedan barai. Age uke, chudan uke, gedan barai. and you would be stepping up and down. Variations for counter would include no counter. So 6 steps forward, 6 steps back. 0 counter, just train against one another. Variation number 2 with the counter after the Gedamba rise. Variation number 3 with counter after each technique. Keep the basic exercise as it is, keeping it somewhat sacrosanct, and allow the students to develop on it. I personally prefer to do Sandangi using Zen Kutsudachi as well. And the logic behind it is I like to include the extra stance because it allows us to train it. So in my dojo, it is not uncommon to see people doing the following, which is, again, different from grading material. In grading, we will ask the OGKK, Sanshin, Sanshin, Shikodachi. But in training, we will often practice, let's say we're here, Sanshin, Zen Kutsudachi, Shikodachi. Sanshin, Zen Kutsudachi, Shikodachi. And we may even include Neko Ashidachi and escalate it to 5. So you would get, this becomes a little bit more complicated. So if you're still watching at this point, then you're interested in karate, in a big way. I'm going to start from Shikodachi rather. So 1, 2, 3. Now, up and slide. Chudan. Back. And maybe a Zen Kutsudachi. Backwards. 1, 2, 3. When I move here, maybe 1 again. And when I move across for the next one, I build in natural counter. And then we go back. If we're practicing it, ×2, so that left and right are trained equally. And there we have a 10 movement, 10 ideas, which is 5 right side, 5 left side, type of, we should call it, instead of Sandangi, Godangi, 5 level or 5 step. The value in this is learning how to move your body through space and time. Very similar to what your kata teaches. And there must be a logical progression. This is not cast in stone. So my students who are watching are going, oh, hold on, Sensei, didn't we do it a different way? Didn't we do it with a long stance and a long stance? For the people doing the defense, the fun part of training is when we include counters. Counter after the face block, chest block, stomach block, and then the counters all differ. They all vary. So when we come back and we say, why do we do Sanbon Kumite, Sanbon Zuki Kumite, Sandangi? The idea, firstly, like I said earlier on, is conditioning, to allow students to train against one another, developing their physical conditioning. The contact, if you're doing shots and counters to the body, can have a little bit of, so that, you have to be tense. You can't be a relaxed tub of jelly. And then as we go along, we're then developing this challenging notion of moving left and right. My resident doctor in the dojo always says every time you do this, what you're forcing the brain to do is hop between the 2 hemispheres. Bearing in mind that this half of the brain kind of governs this half of the body, and this half. And so we're forcing the brain to switch. And the more we do this, the more we create the elixir of youth. We keep the brain active and we keep it young. And then obviously, we're training, we're developing distance, space, and time. And because it's not cast in stone, it doesn't have to stay on a set of railway tracks running backward and forward in the dojo like a military precision. Eventually, build it into a circle so that your idea would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're training in a circle and working around your opponent so that you're creating an understanding of not facing head on, but always outflanking. Brian, if you come back to our video where I did the breaking of the line and moving to the side with the little 3 cones that I did as a randori drill, now you can see how this can be tethered to that and can become part of your randori training in a certain way, but in a very basic way. So if we're standing and Brian is punching jaw down, and again, this is all pre-arranged. This is pre-arranged. So we know it's going to be jaw down, chew down, get down, chew down, chew down. I move to the side. I'm here. Obviously, later on, counters are coming in. Now he's going to adjust and attack to where we are, and he's going to use long stance. So we're now going to do a long stance, chew down zuke, Brian, 2. And now we've got a whole series of attacks or counters that will work here. 3, Gedan. My favorite, the Kansetsu-geri. And now, Chudan level again. 4. So, okay, and 5. Hit, grab, attack, etc. And then we can carry on. The whole idea is that it takes place in a small space. Thanks, Brian. So the critical part of what we're trying to achieve through these activities is an escalation in difficulty. As we improve the idea within the student's mind of how to move, we can then challenge them to move off of the linear and onto the circular. And in doing this, we shorten the distance, or we lower the step between standing formalized to randori, to fighting, to kumite. Keeping it at that point, I think this is our first very, very basic yet somewhat advanced video for 2022. Thank you very much. I hope you log in and join us and leave a comment, etc. as we're going along. Hi, Brian, come on, let's take a bow. Hi, arigatou gozaimasu. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you very much for joining us. Please don't forget, like, subscribe, leave a comment, read the comments, come back and look at the comments in a few weeks. And everybody have a fantastic 2022. Sayonara.